All right, so this is my recap for the battle with Grendel's mother. I just want to make sure that you got all the main points and try to recapture some of what we talked about in class. So, first of all, we have some kennings here in green. We have a lot of kennings in this section. And so I just want to make sure that you catch all of those and remember how they work. Those brave son is talking, of course, about Beowulf. The noble protector, the giver of rings he's talking about here is Hrothgar. And also in this passage, we're going to look for alliteration. We're going to find some examples of that as we go. So when we last left our hero, he had defeated Grendel, but then Grendel's mother came up from the swamp to get revenge for her son, and she killed one of Hrothgar's best friends. So now Beowulf is going to go jump into her swampy home to take her on. He begins with a boast, of course, where he says that he is going to go take on this she beast, and he suggests that Hrothgar send any gifts that he would have given to Beowulf back home to Higelac if something happens to Beowulf. I also don't want to forget to mention Hrunting here, which is the name of the sword that Beowulf takes with him to fight Grendel's mother. It is actually a sword that belongs to this man, Unferth, and there's a longer story there. But you can tell by the construction of the name with the HR that it is a Danish sword because it's got that HR like Hrothgar. So as he jumps into the lake, he sinks for hours to get to the bottom. This is the lake that Hrothgar told him about where the mother lives, and it's so deep no one's ever been to the bottom. But Beowulf sinks for hours, and as he gets close to the bottom, she grabs him right away and they begin to fight. It says she welcomed him in her claws, and not only is she clawing at him and trying to get through his chainmail shirt here, he is also being attacked by other sea beasts who come to watch the fight and then kind of start joining in. And we've got some great examples of alliteration here to free his weapon and failed the fight. The other monsters swimming to see that host of sea beasts who beat at his mail shirt with tusks and teeth. Lots of alliteration. Finally, she gets a hold of him and drags him down to her battle hall. This is like an underwater room. Now he can breathe. He's been holding his breath for hours, but now he is in a place where there's oxygen, there's gravity, and now he can breathe again. It says the water's heat could not hurt him. And he attacks her with his sword, with Hrunting, but he is unable to do any damage. He discovers that just like with Grendel, no sword can slice her evil skin, that she has also been bewitched. She, for her part, so that's where his sword fails him. His sword doesn't work. Now his helmet fails him because she bites holes in his helmet, and it says that it's the last time anyone would ever wear it. So his weapons fail him several times in this fight. But now we have this statement that Beowulf longed only for fame. And so he decides that now he's fighting for the fame of it. Yes, he wants to survive. Yes, he wants to defeat Grendel's mother. But the main motivation that's driving him at this point is that he wants to be famous for it. But he's getting tired. Our hero is weary. And Grendel's mother now has him down on the ground, and she begins to attack him with a dagger that has dried blood all over it. But luckily, his hammered chainmail shirt held. And there's going to be a good picture of that chainmail shirt here in a minute. It's made up. It looks like really tightly woven necklaces that they make a shirt out of. And so at this point, Beowulf sees hanging on the wall a giant sword that was made by giants and has giant magic in it. This is another example of Beowulf's superhuman traits because it says no ordinary man could even lift this sword. But Beowulf breaks the chain that's holding it, picks it up, swings it at Grendel's mother, and cuts off her head. Her body falls lifeless to the floor. However, Beowulf isn't done yet. He also wants to make sure that Grendel is dead. And so he goes looking through the cave to find Grendel. Here's that picture of that chainmail shirt. If you zoom in on that, you can see how it looks like chains. He finds Grendel armless, laying in the corner, and cuts his head off too. And then he decides to bring the head of Grendel out of the swamp as his trophy. But at this moment, the story jumps outside of the lake. And so there's not much of a transition here. Just all of a sudden, we're now on the outside of the lake with Hrothgar's men. And of course, they can't see the battle that's going on far below the surface of the water. They're just watching the surface of the lake to see if there are any clues for who might be winning. And what they see is waves surging and blood spurting up through the lake. And so they say, oh no, Beowulf has lost. And they lose all their hope and they wander away. But the Danes, so those are the Danes, Hrothgar's men and the Danes, they leave. They go back to Harrett Hall. But the Geats, Beowulf's men, they stay and wait to see when Beowulf comes up. Now we're back underwater, and we discover that when Beowulf used the giant sword to cut off Grendel's head, the sword melted. It goes into this long poetic description about how it melted just like ice. Grendel's blood was strong enough even after his death to melt this sword. And so all that Beowulf brings up with him, it says that the monster's hall was full of riches, but all Beowulf wanted was Grendel's head and the hilt of that giant sword. And then he comes back up, this noble protector of seamen, that's Beowulf, another Kenning. And he gets back up. His Geats are thrilled to see him. They celebrate. They take Grendel's head and they shove a spear through it so they can carry it. It takes 4 men to carry Grendel's head. That's how large this monster is. And they parade it all the way back up to Harrett Hall and set it down in the middle of the feasting table so that Beowulf can be honored and celebrated yet again. And that is the end of Beowulf's adventures in Harrett Hall.